Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Interesting Modelling Company Sunday service. Drew's really surprised that we haven't had the title card.
I normally get a couple of seconds grace while you sort the titles out.
Yeah, I know. Incidentally, for those of you wondering, HTV, those titles that we bring up at the beginning, those are very germane to our childhood, aren't they, Drew? Because that was our local station.
Very much so, yeah.
Harlech Television, would you believe?
Oh, dear me.
HTV also were the broadcaster that made the excellent Robin of Sherwood. So anyway, filmed just up the road in Blaze, in Henbury, amongst other places. Blaze Castle Estate in Henbury.
Right.
So anyway, there we go. We just started off on a tangent, you know us.
Be rude not to, really, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be. You should know us by now. Anyway, how the Charles Dickens are you, Drew?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. All right overall. Slowly breaking the back of this cough that my last brush with COVID left. But it's getting better. But I still have the odd coughing fit here and there, shall we say? But it's nothing. Not a creamy pint.
Yes, I'm finding at the moment, because I'm still brushing COVID here, I've still got the broom out and we're still sweeping it around the house. But I'm finding that a beer and a bump is doing the trick. And also my herbal teas. I've got, what have I got tonight? It's Clipper, and it's called Snooze or something, but it's very nice. Anyway, cheers, me dear.
You'll be asleep halfway through.
Well, why not?
Anyway, earlier, and I thought I really fancy a Guinness. So
nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. I'm
libation.
Yep, I had a beer delivery today from a friend of mine, and they got me some. It's the Erdegarden from. I keep calling it Soundgarden, but Erdegarden from Lidl. It's the German wheat beer, and also some St. Austell Brewery stuff as well. So thank you to them. That's very kind of them. So anyway, shall we stop talking about beer, for God's sake, man? And shall we talk about scale modelling? That fascinating pastime of scale modelling.
What on earth do you want to talk about modelling for?
I've somehow got it into my head.
Have you been here before?
Yeah, I have. I know. Right, we've got a carefully prepared kind of schedule for tonight,
which we're going to complete.
Threw off the rails completely with your surprise purchase. So, shall we go live to your workbench then?
I want to go that quickly. We're not even going to discuss what we've been up to.
All right, what have we been up to then?
Good Lord!
All right,
nothing really.
You've probably seen on the thingy, I'm currently still building my little Tamiya M8 motor carriage, which is an absolute joy to build. Also, and this is a model you built, Drew, it's the Itinerary AMX.
Yes, I built it earlier this year.
Yeah, and I've got to say, I'm finding it pretty much an utter joy. It's
a very nice model indeed. It's there are one or two extremely minor issues, I thought, but other than that, it's definitely
it shows
another step forward for Itinerary.
It shows they can up their game if they really try.
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Yeah, and so I'm really enjoying that at the moment, and I've also got that little tractor that I started doing before Telford. Here we go. Look, Drew's gone all silver.
There's been nothing. It's been actually quite productive. So that's the special hobby F84F with an initial metal coat on it. And while I was building that, I thought, oh, I'll dig one of my Tamiya ones, F84Gs, out of the attic and have a go at that. And so I've been building that side by side. And this has actually got a bit further in the painting stage, because what I'm trying to do is get a kind of variegated weathered metal look. So after the initial coat of LP11, I've gone over it with a sort of a gunmetal using the old Artel splatter masks.
Yeah, brilliant.
And then sort of blended it all back with some more of the LP11. So hopefully, if you can see it catching the camera, there's a much more of a sort of variegated
patina
to it, hopefully, which will. I've gone around. I've painted some panels and stuff with polished aluminium before I applied the main coat, and that's all we masked off with Maskol. So when I sort of remove that later on, what's going to leave is some shiny small panels. I've done the main paint, but yeah, so that's sort of like one step on from that at the moment, which will be the that'll get the splatter mask work later on. But yeah, they're both being built sort of more or less side by side, bit by bit. And I mean, they're both wonderful models.
What schemes are they going to be wearing?
Well, the both extremely bright. So yeah, that's the scheme that the F84F is going to be in.
Nice.
Yeah, it's going to be quite loud. That typically 1950s US Air Force thing going on. Now the F84G, I haven't decided yet. I'm kind of tempted to go with just the. He says, looking through, yeah, there's a couple of schemes in the kit, and it's an either or at the moment. I haven't really decided, but yeah, it's that's just been built as a kind of alongside sort of thing to test some stuff out as I'm going. But yeah, so basically they're both going to be sort of early to mid 50s US Air Force, in suitably loud natural metal schemes. So that's where we are with those at the moment. So
Mike Williams has got a question for you. He says, it's my go-to thinner for LP. I think he means the brain fade here. Mike, what do you mean by no ? It's my. Sorry, I'm just trying to read what the comments are. Oh, here we go.
yeah, I think it's
sorry. Simon Lewis says, hi, has anyone had problems mixing Mr. Colour levelling thinner with Tamiya lacquer paints? Mixed some today and it went like gloop. To which Mike responded, no, it's my go-to thinner for LP. Which way round did you mix it? Paint first or thinner first? So, all right, well, let them carry on that conversation. It was just I didn't know whether Mike was talking about your mix for the silver.
Yeah, so, no, I mean my mix for the silver. I've the bright polished aluminium areas were done with AK Extreme Metal polished aluminium.
Right.
And then it's had a main coat of LP11 over the top, which was thin red. That's Mr. Colour Rapid thinner. So it's thinned with that. And then the spatter mask was a mixture of an old pot of LP11 with a little bit of black in it, just to turn it into, well, as you can see here, dark gunmetal colour. So that's as far as I've got at the moment. But no, it's Mr. Colour thinner. I mean, albeit I did use the Rapid rather than the leveling, because the Rapid works better with metallics. But overall, they all thin the same. I don't know what's gone wrong there. If it turned into gloop.
Yeah, we will keep an eye on that. Yeah, it sounds like there might have been a bit of contamination, and
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I mean, I'm thinking
Mm.
possibly a bit of alcohol in there, IPA or something might have. Should we do a little test?
Yeah, let's do a little test. Go on then, Professor.
So let's just have a little bit of a. So I don't know. Let's grab a random pot of LP. So we'll use the LP29 there, which is an olive drab, I think. So I'm just trying to find the a pair of glasses that will let me see my workbench.
It's exciting. This is real.
Well, I always like this sort of thing. It's you know, it's what we're here for, isn't it?
Yeah.
Doing exactly this sort of thing. So let's give it a quick. I should try and avoid getting any paint on my lovely
new cutting mat.
My lovely streaming only cutting mat. So let's a bit of the paint into there.
Come on, folks. Let's start taking odds that Drewe manages to blob some green paint on his lovely new cutting mat. So
so there's 3 there.
3, yeah, brilliant.
So there's 3. So so that's light blue. That's Mr. Color Leveling Thinner.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll add a few drops of that into number 1.
Perfect.
Absolutely no problem there whatsoever.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So that's that. So let's just give them a brush of white through. So this here is the rapid thinner. There you go. There's actually very little difference other than the fact that we know that this will flash off a bit quicker than the leveling thinner one. But there you can see that's perfect. Yes. Agreed.
Yep. Works for me.
And so just as a final, just to see if we're looking at any kind of contamination or anything, this is
isopropyl alcohol.
Isopropyl alcohol. Boom, boom, boom. And that's actually thinned it. How about that?
Yeah.
Well, I thought if anything was going to goop it up, it was going to be that. It hasn't thinned it. It doesn't act as it's still got quite a lot of viscosity to it.
Yeah.
But sometimes as you add more, it sort of starts breaking down and gooping up if you add more. But there we go. Yeah, it started separating.
Clumping. Yeah.
So it's not actually. So hopefully you can see that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you don't want to be using alcohol because it's separating. But the no, we try not to contaminate. But yeah, the rapid and the leveling both seem fine.
Yep.
So anyway, but yeah, that is completely separated now.
Yep.
So alcohol is an issue. So folks, don't use alcohol. So are we actually going to be able to clean this out without? Let's move it over here, away from my.
Yeah. Oh, he didn't spill it. Oh, boo! There was $1 going to Models for Heroes. There we go. So
well, give them $1 anyway.
People were rooting for you.
Give them $1 anyway, I say.
Give them $1, yeah.
So there we go, folks. This is what we like to do on this channel, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sort of rapid trials.
Yep.
To see. So yeah, alcohol is very definitely an issue. Cheers.
Cheers, my dears. Yes, tends to be here both nights.
But yeah, both the thinners I use. So that's sort of both kinds of thinners bracketing the standard Mr. Colour thinner. So there's a leveling thinner and a rapid thinner. So there's absolutely no reason to suppose that standard Mr. Colour thinner in the middle of those three will behave any differently. So I would suggest there's some contamination, possibly if you use any of the sort of proper water-based acrylics. Check if there's any contamination, cross-contamination there. My next thing was going to try some water, but I think we know what's going to happen if we add water. It's not going to work. So yeah, but there you go. Quick trials. That's what we're here for.
Very good. Yes. You like your modelling like your justice system. Quick trials. So there we go.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Quick trials, fast resolutions.
Oh, it's like going back to the day job, isn't it, with you?
Yeah. And we try not to indulge in appealing to anybody.
Oh God, he was Judge Dredd of Somerset. You were. Right. Shall you now talk about your latest acquisition? Very exciting acquisition. This.
Bold of you to assume it's my latest acquisition.
Well, you haven't mentioned it.
Yeah, no, it's I picked up the last week. I did pick up one of the mini art P47s because it's odd, isn't it? Thunderstreak, Thunderjet, Thunderbolt. And I've got a couple of A10s behind me. It's very much a Republic workshop at the moment.
Yeah.
And all the better for it, because they did build remarkable aeroplanes. But yeah, this is called the basic kit, which just basically means it's not full of photo etch and exposed panels everywhere, really. But it is. So yeah, there's a couple of decal sheets, both of which are really, really nicely printed. I suspect I will be looking for other options for that scheme though. I haven't said that. That's very nice, isn't it? I do like that. So I mean, it's difficult to know what to say that hasn't been said already. Do you know what I mean? It's every bit as special as people have said it is. The engraving is perhaps a tiny little bit heavier than you'd find in, say, an Edward kit. Perhaps it's a bit closer to like the engravings in the 48 scale Hurricane from Armour, which is hardly a criticism. If you know what I'm saying. But yeah, you got raised panels all around the belly area here and stuff like that. Some beautiful detail inside the supercharger exhausts and things like that. It's just overall, it's just a beautifully produced kit. Shall I take some out of the bags then?
Yeah, go on then. I have a very soft spot for the P47 because one of the first model magazines I ever got was a copy of Scale Models from 1975, which I've still got. Doesn't sound like me to keep magazines from nearly 50 years ago, but there we go.
No, not at all.
No, not at all. And it was a review. This is back in the days when Scale Models used to do absolutely brilliant reviews, and they were reviewing the then new 72nd scale Frog. That tells you how old the magazine was. Frog, Matchbox, and Hasegawa P47 kits. And it's just such a brilliantly written article that I can almost close my eyes and quote you chunks of it verbatim. Not going to, but you know what I mean. Anyway, for a basic kit, there's a lot of bits there, Drew.
Yeah, bear in mind that you get this here. You get 2 sets for that. So that's looks like £1,000, 500, 250, and sort of like £100 bombs.
Yeah.
There. So obviously you get 2 each of those. The big flat tank, the paper tanks, 108 gallon paper tanks. The small drop tanks, and also the drop tank smoke dischargers.
Christopher Joseph Buchholz says, "Am I seeing the Lockheed style tanks in there too?"
Which ones are the Lockheed style tanks,
I
Chris?
think there are the ones up on the left there.
These ones here.
Yeah.
So you get 2 of those. The big, the ones I think. Do we see? Yeah, P-38s carried those as well, didn't they? So they're big old tanks. Yeah. And various assorted wheel hubs and stuff, and the bazookas. So you get a set of those as well. So yeah, that sprue is duplicated. So yeah, it's for for a basic kit, it's only really basic compared to when they released their detailed one.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean, it's not basic per se. So yeah, you've got things here. You've got closed undercarriage, closed wheel doors here, and as well as open wheel doors. So that's a nice little touch, isn't it? You can just it's simple to do them closed if you want to.
I tell you what, those closed undercarriage doors are very useful when you're masking.
Exactly that. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So you got open and closed cowl flaps.
Separate flaps by the looks of things.
Separate flaps. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, there we go. There's the engine sprue.
Good Lord.
A lot of this is obviously replaced with photo etch and stuff in the advanced kit, which is yet to be released. Only one style of prop. I was quite surprised, but I think they've been very specific about their variant.
So also, Drew, observation is that that's an uncuffed prop, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's gated off at the top of the run.
Oh yeah. I mean, a lot of the whole kit. If you look at it, I mean, this the weapon sprue here, that is just a bunch of individual sprues.
Yeah.
They can gate off as they want. So yeah. There is doubtless other, because they'll be doing a P-47M at some point as well. It's difficult to get a P-47N from a D, but I live in hope, because I do particularly love the P-47N, because it was just such a gigantic aeroplane, even compared to most Thunderbolts. It was just the bigger wings and stuff, and it's something like £22,000 gross takeoff weight for that for a World War II fighter. That's getting on 3 times the weight of a Spitfire. So here's a bit that I really liked in the basic kit. We get the cowling in separate parts here, obviously. Well, not obviously, but that's how they've done it. But what I like is that the wings have been done with closed gun gun rays.
Yeah.
Because I know that having seen the sprues for the advanced kit comes with a separate different sprue for the wings with open gun bays. So I really, really like the fact that I won't have to try and fit gun bays in a closed position on this. I think that is it's a similar way of approaching it to how Airfix did it with the Seafire 17 with the folding and unfolded wings, where they did completely separate sets of wings. Stroke of genius, never to be repeated, sadly. Except for the Wildcat did as well, didn't it?
Got a question from John Connolly. He says, "Hi guys, can we assume the P-47 Razorback is coming from Mini Art?"
I wouldn't like to assume it. I know they've announced a D and an M. So here's the D to stroke 25, and they've announced that they will be doing an M. Razorback, I would like to think so. But they haven't formally announced anything yet. I mean, Mini Art generally do get a lot of use out of their toolings, don't they?
I would say the chances of Mini Art going to all this trouble with all these things that they've done on this P47, all the different wheel hubs and everything, and for them to be doing lots of different bubble top variants and go, yeah, not doing a Razorback though. I can't see it.
It's unlikely, but I never like to assume those things.
Yeah.
So there's another 2 different sets of wheels with tyres there, with a diamond tread and a very fine square tread. Interior parts here. I know that John Tabernor's got one very far into construction, and it does look beautiful. So yeah, I'm I like the Thunderbolt anyway. It's got that same kind of brutish look of the Tempest had, which is why it appeals to me. And I just think that is a very, very nice package. Hugely impressed. I mean, as with all these things, I can't wait to build it. When I will build it, I don't know.
Yep, that's why I didn't buy one at Telford, for the simple reason that as much as I would like one, when am I going to get round to building one? And yeah, I know.
It's never stopped me in the past, and it won't stop me in the future.
I know. Good Lord.
Just briefly,
go on.
Can you say how lovely that model is?
Yeah, you can do.
That is a seriously. We're not going to look at it or talk about it in great detail, but that is Airfix. Take it out a notch again. Absolutely lovely. And that is one that will be getting built very shortly, because it's an ME410 and it's a beautiful aeroplane.
You do like a 410, don't you?
I do like the 410. Yeah, it's just got the same kind of. I'm attracted to it in the same way I'm attracted to the Mosquito. It's just got that. It looked right, even though it wasn't a wonderful aeroplane. So, hey ho. Even in Spence, right?
Yeah, nice of you to join us.
I concur. By the way, I got one of those 410s arrive for work on Friday, and I had a little look at it. It's very sharp, very nice model.
And it's the argument I would largely make is it's the quality of the plastic.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we always used to say that with the softer plastic, it didn't really matter, because once you put a coat of primer on it, kind of showed you how fine all the detail was. But that softer plastic still resulted in sort of rounded corners where you want a sharp corner and stuff like that, which isn't any of that on this. It's all pin sharp.
I mean, that argument only holds water if you're prepared to go through the pain and transition of opening the box and gluing together plastic pop bottles in order to get your kit together. I mean, some of the plastic that was used on Airfix kits even only a few years ago was just so soft and so difficult to work with. It was really poor. But this thing looks like it's a generational kind of leap with the new Airfix kits. There's no two ways about it. The same was true with the Sea King. Everything was kind of sharp and hard.
It's kind of. I really hope this is it's a permanent step forward, because Airfix have had one or two little false starts in the last couple of decades where they've leapt forward a little bit, and then the Lightning and the Spitfire in the late 90s were generation ahead, and then immediately sort of stepped back to sort of previous quality, if you like, or lack of. So they've had sort of a few false starts, and I'm hoping that this is genuinely sort of the dawn of a new quality era, shall we say.
I mean, certainly I didn't look at it too much. It's actually, I put it in the parking bay behind me, but rather than sort of because I'm sort of knee deep in F-35s at the moment, and as you well know, I never work on more than one thing at a time unless I'm basically being held by the throat to do so, because I can't focus on more than one model at a time, and if I have more than one thing at a time, one of them will suffer, and I don't really want that to happen. So it came. I opened the box, had a look in the bags, and just sort of tipped it up, and I thought, God, that looks really nice. Panel lines look really sharp on it as well. It just it looks like a current generation kit. It doesn't
very
have that
much.
sort of slopey feel, does it? Which is good. And that grey plastic, it might even just be a subconscious thing to begin with. The grey plastic elevates it up, doesn't it? It makes it look
that kind of the dark, a slightly darker grey plastic. It makes, it works for Armour Hobby, it works for Edouard, you know. It works with. I can remember, to me, generally is that medium dark grey plastic. Remember they did that. They released a couple of kits, including their KO46, the Dyna, in a really light grey, and it just didn't work. It just looked really,
it's kind of really odd, doesn't it? I agree. I think it'll mean that for this 410, I'll take a trek up to. I say take a trek up to.
Oh yeah,
maybe all of 10 minutes.
All the way to Cosford for you.
I'll go up to Cosford. So I'll go up to Cosford and take a look at the real one that's up there, and maybe take some photographs of it and everything. I mean, it's sort of one of the. I think, when you live next door to any museum, you there's that sort of thing of I've probably walked underneath it 1,000 times.
It's the same for me going to the Fleet Air Museum.
Yeah,
it's literally a 10-minute drive down the road for me.
Yeah,
and I very, very rarely go there. Used to go there twice a year when they had the model show, but then it got taken over by Navy museums, blah, whatever. And they decided they'd rather have corporate events than enthusiasts.
We had this conversation last weekend about the shows, but I'll take a look at the 410. I mean, it is, and the thing about the 410 as well is it's unless you've actually seen the thing in the flesh, it's actually a substantial airplane. It's not a small airplane. It's it's like the Mosquito. You see the Mosquito at Cosford. The Mosquito is a big machine. They're not little tiny. The Wooden Wonder isn't a small airplane. It's a big machine. When
it's almost sticking 2 Merlins on something is almost bound to result a certain size of airplane. Isn't it? It's like people always talk about re-engineering that. If the Whirlwind had Merlins, it would. And I always think if the Whirlwind had Merlins, it would have been vastly overpowered.
Yes. It would have been the F-20 Tiger Shark of its day. It would have been killing pilots left, right, and centre.
Yeah, it looks. People say, "Oh, they should have put Merlins on the Whirlwind." And I just think the Merlin is far too big for the Whirlwind. But it is. Do you know the one aeroplane that I always, whenever I looked at it, it always catches me out with just how enormous it is the Pucara.
Yeah, Pucara's massive.
It's absolutely, and I can remember the very first time I ever saw one at the Fleet Air Museum after the Falklands War, when they had the big Falklands display on, and they had the aircraft there, and I can just remember walking in and just being absolutely sort of taken aback by how big it was. I think it's mainly a lot of it's got to do with how tall it is, because of that long spindly undercarriage and the big high T tail. Of everything makes it look bigger. But it had the same sort of impact on me as every time I see an F-111 in the flesh. It does.
I was just about to point that out, because we went to Duxford, and if you go to Duxford, and go in the American hangar, you can obviously walk alongside the F-111, but you can also go up on like a gantry area that runs around, so you can look down on it. And the F-111 is massive. I mean, it is gigantic to stand next to, and the one at Cosford as well. It's sort of hidden away because it's behind the.
Every time you go, you almost stumble across it, don't you?
Yeah, it's sort of.
And we know that I'm a huge fan of the F-111, always have been. It's just you always seem to stumble across it at Cosford when you go there. It's F-111.
And you sort of bypass it, don't you? And then you sort of walk and have a look at the drop tanks, which are about, which are bigger than the MiG-15 that's by the side of it, sort of thing. It is an enormous airplane, and when you sort of think of those things flying low level, geez, honestly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, Dave Fleming there said he has the opposite reaction to the Phantom. It's actually quite small in the metal. One aircraft that always takes me by surprise by how small it is the Tornado.
Tornado.
It's got about the same footprint as an F-16.
Yeah.
A little bit bigger maybe with the wings forward, but the overall footprint of the Tornado is really a very compact aeroplane.
I think the thing that throws people with the Tornado, and obviously this is where it got one of its nicknames from, is the fin.
Yeah.
It's got an enormous fin.
It has.
But it's and I think especially when a Tornado is all swept back, it's a very compact aeroplane.
Yeah, and then we have the other side of the coin, don't we? If you look at a Gnat, for instance, which is just, you could fit one in here. They're really tiny little jets, aren't they? And I had this thing when I went up to the engineering school at Cosford earlier on this year, and sort of chatting to one of the guys that works up there. Sitting in Jaguar, and the Jaguar is, a fabulous airplane and everything. And he said, you do realize that you would never have been able to fly this airplane because you're far too tall. And the same thing with the Harrier, you have to be a certain size. And then you sit in the TSR2, and the TSR2 is, the cockpit of that is enormous. It's this sort of cavernous space. And you realize that these airplanes are sort of designed for people of less stature than you. And
I can remember when I was out in California, staying with our friend Mr. Buchholz, and we went to I think it was the Hiller Museum, but they had a Skyhawk in there. And I sat in the cockpit of a Skyhawk and just went, there's no way. It's just, and that was an A4M. That was technically the big the big canopy version. It was just, he was literally, hunched over and just squeezed in, and it's just, there's, fighter pilots tend to be, not always, but tend to be a bit shorter and stockier and of that kind of a build.
I think the ultimate example of that for us was that Cosford has open cockpit weekends that you can go up there, and they run them. I'm not sure if they've run them recently, but certainly before lockdown you used to be able to go up there. And one of the aircraft that they had the last time we were there for an open cockpit was this Messerschmitt 163, and the Messerschmitt 163, I couldn't even get in the cockpit. I sort of stepped into it and sort of and put my feet on the floor of the cockpit, so I got the seat behind me, and I tried to sit. I couldn't even sit down in the cockpit wearing just jeans and a hoodie like I've got at the moment. Harris, who's shorter than I am, he's not tiny by any means, but he's 5'10" or whatever. He tried to get it. He couldn't really cramp in there either. And then I started to think, well, these guys must have worn parachutes as well, plus all of their flight gear and everything. How big were the pilots? Were they like 4'3" or something to get in these airplanes? And you realise how tiny these pilots must have been to fly.
Yeah, these are the open cockpit of the Vampire T11 at Yeovilton. And I didn't even try getting into that. And I looked down and went, 2 people. There's just no way.
I know last year when we were, me and my friend Tara were driving across the Somerset levels, and it was the most bizarre thing. We're driving along, and there was a sign that just said, "The Sea Harrier." And we kind of looked at each other, and I said, "No, I've got to turn around and see what this is," And we ended up going down this little track into a barn, and lo and behold, there was a Sea Harrier. It was an FA2 that a guy had bought. I went up the ladder and sat in the cockpit. Oh my goodness me! Yeah, it's like that.
Very tight. They are incredibly small. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And somebody was saying we were, I think I read it somewhere only a few weeks ago, and they were talking about the 2-seat Lightnings. That the 2-seat Lightning, the cockpit is only sort of a mere inches wider than the single-seat Lightning, and yet they put 2 seats in there and 2 pilots cramped side by side. But it's not like it's massively bulbous around those 2 seats. They basically made it as small as humanly possible to have 2 people sort of cramped side by side in that. I mean, that must have been quite an extraordinary experience to be the passenger in one of those things when you basically sat on the lap of the pilot. It must have been. But
Drew, got a question here from Dan Wood. He says, speaking of the F111, can anyone recommend good paint matches for the 3-tone scheme of the Desert Storm aircraft from Lakenheath?
Yeah, Mr. Colour.
Yeah.
34102, 34079, 30219 with 34038 black undersides. So
there you go, Dan.
That's it. Yeah.
Honestly, if you get Mr. Colour or Mr. Hobby, the aqueous lacquer, the aqueous acrylics, they are as good a Southeast Asia range of paints as any I've ever used.
They're spot on, aren't they?
They're just the difference, the contrast between the colours looks just right. So I think it's 303, 304, and 305 or something. I don't know. But they are readily available. You know, those colours. I should say, whenever a new paint range comes out and I want to try it out, I always get Southeast Asia colours as my tester, if you like. It's always because I know what contrast I'm looking for in Southeast Asian schemes.
Do you know what my barometer is for every time a new paint range comes out? RAF dark green, dark earth, and sky.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
It's got to have that right level of contrast, and especially I don't know. I'm not going to criticize people's paint choices, but whoever is making RAF dark green, dark earth at the moment, and you see people using that paint and they're ending up with like a pale lime green color and a much like a chocolatey brown.
Yeah.
And I look at it and I think, if you know, I mean, people, like I say, if people like to use certain paints, I'm not going to say don't do it, but it's just baffling sometimes that you see these beautifully made models. And
I'm not going to say don't do it, but I will be judging you.
Yes, I'm not saying it's wrong, but it's wrong.
I'm doing it in a very passive aggressive way, aren't I? Right. I'm just gonna kind of try and shoehorn in a couple of news items, if that's all right with you, gentlemen. We've got news from Mini Art. I don't know if you ever heard of them, little company. They're doing musicians.
Is that Noddy Holder and a Noddy Holder on the accordion?
That is Noddy Holder on the accordion. Or it's kind of like Rush in the 1930s Rush. But yeah, this I mean, talk about a set that I don't even need to see the sprues. I'm in. I'm going to get this. We'll just whiz through the sprues. You've got there's Noddy Holder playing the accordion. I think it's Noddy anyway. And you've got 3 figures, and with a little walk. That must be a first for a model kit. A walking stick, goodness me, a cane rather. Then you've got the boxes and the chairs and frames and everything. Then you have, I think this has come from another Mini Art set, probably their musical instruments one.
There's a banjo.
Sorry,
there's a banjo.
Yeah, yep. So you've got a violin, a viola, a mandolin. You've got a bass drum there, which when you see these have come from another Mini Art set, clearly. So you're obviously not going to be using all these for this set, but goodness me, they become useful little things for dioramas or adornments to other vehicles or things. But honestly, this I will check with my suppliers. He says, try not to make it sound too seedy, but I'm in. I am getting this. I think that is Mini Art for the win yet again.
Yeah, no argument here. No argument here.
Yep. And also, if we can just dive on to another bit of news, and that is IBG, and they are doing the M13/40, the Caro Amata. Now this, would you believe, this is 72nd scale. this has only really been kitted by mainstream companies twice. One was nearly 50 years ago, and of course it was Eschi. And then in recent years, we've had, in 2010, we had these simplified wargaming kits from Italeri. But we've not had a full-on kind of a full-on kit. Having said that, IBG do have their own way of slightly simplifying things, but having built some of their kits, the simplification does not compromise the model in any way whatsoever. So they've broken this down into lots and lots of little sprues, so clearly they're going to be wringing more variants out of it. And now we've got one of the sprue Y, which has got detailed parts on it. You've got the transmission there with the front hatches. You've got part of the running gear there. You've got the drive sprockets. Sprue K with 2 tiny little details on it. There you go. Engine transmission. And then a sheet of photo etch as well. And then 4, I think it's either 3 or 4 schemes in the kit. But anything as long as it's sand, but that doesn't bother me because that is a brilliant color for doing weathering on. So yeah, absolutely, I'm in with this one. They're also doing another variant as well, which is more like the kind of like command carrier version. So yeah, once you've done this running gear, you can do lots and lots of other variants. So
presumably they'll do the Semavente as well, won't they?
I would imagine they probably will, Spence.
Yeah.
And also Mirage are also doing a set of Italian tank crew in 72nd scale, which is nicely timed. So
interesting. Well, that says as well that they're 3D printed.
Yep. Yeah,
which is interesting, isn't it? That Mirage are producing parts, because it doesn't say. Does it? Is the whole thing 3D printed, or is it just the accessories?
No, I think everything in this set is 3D printed parts. So
well, that's interesting.
Set includes 5 World War II Italian tank crew, water gasoline canister, 12 Italian M35 hand grenades, grenades box, breeder 38. Italian 8mm machine gun with magazines. I'd imagine they're all 3D printed, but good times if you're into 72nd scale modelling.
I have to say, I was thinking about this the other after coming back from the Nationals the weekend, because I did what I always do, and I spent an awful lot of time looking at the smaller scale stuff rather than all the big grandiose models that were in there, and I've got this sort of burning desire to go back to that scale and do something really detailed. I guess a bit like my Focke-Wulf 190 that I did. God, seems like an awful long time ago now, but that opens up possibilities for a really detailed tiny little thing if you've got all those figures with all the accessories and everything. And I noticed as well, talking about mini art, that they're releasing, or they've released, or they're about to release a really interesting set of like tools in 48 with all acetylene bottles and all sorts of tools and all that kind of stuff. And I was sitting there, I was looking at the box art thinking, oh, I could do a little workshop diorama, a tiny little thing with all of those tools. And I was thinking, how much detail and nonsense could I get into a really small space with that set? And it looked kind of cool. So my head's sort of flapping around at that. Not anytime soon, trust me. if my stupid schedule is anything to go by.
You have enough to keep you going for the immediate future.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, that's it. There you go. That's an awful lot of little tiny parts in a kit. Yeah, I thought that would look really interesting to do something like that. I'll think about that at some point. But yeah. Anyway, Drew, we did miss you at the weekend. I just thought I'd put that out.
I have to say, looking at all the reports from it, it looks like it was an outstandingly successful weekend.
It was really,
which I'm very, very happy about. It's a bit of a mixed sort of emotion for me, because whilst I'm still happy that I didn't go, I'm sad that I didn't go, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, prodding you and joking aside, I think you would have really enjoyed it. It was really...
Yeah, I think I've got no doubt at all that I would have, and it appears to have this year especially. It appears to have rebounded quite magnificently.
Spence and I were commenting on this over the weekend, and Spence. It was relentless, wasn't it?
It was just bonkers.
It never gave up. It never let up.
And I can't remember ever seeing it that busy,
No.
or certainly for a long time. It seemed to it dropped a little bit, but last weekend it was absolutely relentless. It was.
I think the thing that we also picked up on was just people's enthusiasm again.
Yeah, I think so, and counterintuitively, I think it's difficult to keep that enthusiasm going when you're bombarded with so much stuff all the time. Do you know what I mean? You get on the mailing list for our friends at Jadlam or eModels or Hannants or wherever it is, and you just see all this just avalanche of new products and kits, and sometimes it becomes completely overwhelming, and you're like, oh well, yeah, that's great. But people were just like, yeah, have you seen this? Have you seen this? Oh, I like this. I want to build this on it. And that's really brilliant.
It's brilliant. The relative desert of the early mid sort of through to nearly the late 80s just seems like a whole other lifetime, doesn't it? When you look at it these days, and like you say, it is just relentless.
It is. I mean, I've given up on. I think I sort of talked about this. We talked a couple of months ago. I can't remember now, but I've sort of given up on new kits completely. Just even trying to keep up with it. So I don't anymore. I sort of look at it and I see the new kits and I think, oh, they look kind of cool. That looks good. I'd like to build that. I'd like to build that and everything. But I don't, in the same way that I used to. When you used to go, well, I know exactly what's coming out from X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, that's what I mean. At that time when it was a relative desert, wasn't it?
You simply can't do that now, can you? There's just no point even thinking about it. So I'll see something, I'll go, yeah. I mean, somebody mentioned earlier on that the Hobby Boss B24J is likely to be out at some point soon. And so those kind of things, if they capture my imagination, but I know that I don't have to, because the boys at work will keep me, informed, or you guys, and whatever. But when you go, like when I got there on the Friday, and I walked past the Hannants stand, and they got a whole pile of the new Corsairs there. They got a whole pile of. I mean, honestly, I was walking past stands and there were piles and piles of new Edward kits. I mean, there must have been a dozen new releases that all seem to hit this. And you're like, I don't even know how to begin to keep up with that. I don't even know where that is.
I'm still terrible, and I just buy new kits all the time because I just love new releases. So I still, and fortunately I'm in a position financially and all that it's not a problem for me to do that. But I look at my stash in the attic, and it comes back to something that was on my model page earlier this week, and somebody responded by saying there's probably 60% of his stash in his attic that he will never open the box on again. And I was like, I would say probably 60% is conservative in my case. I could go up into my attic and I could clear 90% of that out, because I will never ever look in those boxes again. And it's just, I think it was when I was talking about the I started sticking the Italeri Messerschmitt 410 together in anticipation of the Airfix one. It just went. Just no, that can go in the bin. But then the inevitable. What do you throw it away for? Why didn't you donate it to somebody? Give it, and I'm like, oh no, it went in the bin. That's an end to it.
I think that's the same with last weekend. I actively made a decision as soon as I got there. I think I'd probably made it before that actually, and I was like, I am not buying any kits from this show at all. no new kits, no old kits, no kits at all. Because I was wandering around going, yeah, that looks good. When am I going to build it? And so I've got to that sort of that point of like, comfort isn't the right word, but you know what I mean. It's that I'm comfortable in my own world, that if I want something, I'll be able to get it later on if I'm going to build it. You know, and I sort of went round and had a look sort of behind me. If I sort of move my computer, you can see behind my head there. You can sort of see just above the display cases.
Yeah.
That's my scheduled builds that I plan to build in the next 18 months are sat upon the shelf up there. That doesn't include the thousands that are in the loft, you know, a ridiculous kind of thing. And I think it's going to come to a point where it's just, I'm now going to have to be so specific about it that I just don't, you know, even kind of think about it. It's not I don't know. I'm almost the model company's worst nightmare, really, because I'm not interested in increasing my stash anymore. I'm only interested in what they can do for my collection in terms of builds. I'm not interested in buying kits just to stick upstairs. I don't want to do that anymore.
Well,
and unfortunately, and I've got Mike Reeves, who is basically my crack dealer, my monogram crack dealer, who just keeps on. You know, he's
peddling you monogram kits.
Well, he keeps on sort of cornering me in dark alleys, saying I've got something that I think you might like, and I've got absolutely no resistance to anything monogram. So yeah, so what can I do? But
I gotta say, that was one of the reasons why I fought shy of getting one of the Mini Art P47s at the weekend, because I would dearly love to build one. I'd dearly love to have one and build one. But, you know, I came home from I don't understand these conversations. I came home from Telford with the little Italeri AMX that I was building for the hobby company at the weekend, and also the Lamia what is that? It's an M20, isn't it? Yeah, M8 rather, M8. So they're keeping me more than occupied at the moment.
I have to say that AMX is lovely.
Yeah, it's really nice.
It's really, really nice. Yeah, it's a proper little kit. I really like that. But I came back with an F-35 shaped box of goodies, and I know, Drew, because you've built one and we saw it. And by the way, spectacular finish on that model.
Not bad.
Absolutely beautiful. It was.
Yeah, I got the varnish right on that one.
You did. It was super smooth. I mean, it's like, oh, that's really, really nice. Color was spot on as well. And I've been working on this F-35 over the last sort of week or so, since my shameful lack of progress at Scale Model World. It was
absolutely that. What was the point of you turning up, mate? You didn't do any modeling at all.
Absolutely.
All it was with you was
just to back up a second. I remember in 2019 when we were doing the demos, I never got my hands on an airbrush all weekend.
No, we can't trust you with them.
I thought people quite liked my airbrush. Nobody let me touch an airbrush all weekend.
I have to say that the three of us are. I mean, John is good at this. He's good at switching off. But Drew, I think the fundamental point is that you and I have just got big mouths and we can't stop flapping our gums whenever we get a chance to talk to people. But I have to say, having now spent some time with this F-35, it's spectacular. I mean,
absolutely. It's
an engineering masterclass.
I mean, I kind of. I've had a few people asking why I built it all closed up, and you know, you've got to say, well, it was because of the compressed timescale to build it, and also by agreement. But I think that misses the essential point of doing that model all closed up. Is as much an advert for what a stunning piece of tooling that kit is as doing it all opened up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the fact that all of those open panels are just dropped in place and a dab of glue added. Yeah. And you know the upper and lower fuselage on that kit look like they're two parts.
Yes,
it looks like two parts. There's no hint that all those all the doors and stuff were all separate parts that you did closed. So I kind of think that, well, I get what people are saying, and that they think it's, you know, that what they want to do is see it all, you know, opened up with the lift fan doors open and all that kind of stuff. Don't overlook the fact that doing it all closed up is as much an advert for how good that kit is as doing it open.
Well, my build is going to be halfway between your build and Carl Robertshaw's build, because you did yours in flight, all closed up. He did his in the hovering position with the doors open, and mine's going to be done as a parked version. So you'll sort of see all kind of three of those things. But it is, when you're kind of putting it together, it really is spectacular, and it goes together beautifully. The detail in that weapons bay is mind blowing. I mean, I've been painting it this evening while I sort of came on. This is my kind of thing. Just trying to kind of work out how to bring the detail out and how to bring that white out and everything. And also now, because I've got, it's becoming such a pain. I've now got to that point where I'm now sort of painting in this style quite a bit now, and I can't seem to switch off this micro painting virtually every aspect of a bay rather than sort of washing it. So it's taken me a bit of time, but it is beautiful. I mean, to think it's essentially a handful of parts, isn't it? It's just one main part.
Yes, yeah.
And a couple of smaller details, but
bobs are added on, isn't there? But
yeah. And then once you can kind of see, once you've got everything else that's kind of going to go into that, and all the pipe work and everything, it'll look really, really nice. The only problem that I've got with this is that this is a real rush job. It's a bit like yours. I'd love to be able to sort of spend some time on this, but the whole of this interior and all of this sort of stuff has got to be done by the end of next week. So it's.
I kind of thought, I would looking at it and coming towards the end, I was thinking, you know what, I probably could have done that on its undercarriage, or maybe the weapons bay doors open. Then I looked back and went, no, you couldn't. You couldn't have done that and done it justice.
No.
But I would say, Drew, the beauty of your build was that you also got to show off the stand that they included in the kit as well.
Yeah.
Because we had some people coming up and asking where did you get the stand from? And it's like, it's in the kit. It's there.
Yeah, I mean, I ended up having to modify the stand a little bit. That's why the model locates on a piece of bamboo through that stand, because for some reason the actual screw that they gave you to screw it into the bottom wouldn't engage on mine. Now it's a Tamiya kit, so that's something I've done. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I've got no doubt that is on me, not the kit.
Yeah.
But I ended up sort of slightly modifying that stand. But as it was modified, it was, it meant that you could spin it a little bit on the stand and look at various bits and bobs.
It's funny when you see those stands, isn't it? It just sort of brought back the memories of building Frog, Matchbox, and Airfix kits when they had their own distinct little kind of stand, didn't they? And the Airfix, the Matchbox one with a ball on the top, and the Airfix one, which was kind of like that sort of nice curves. And then there was the Frog ones, didn't they? Weren't they in like kind of a light blue color? I seem to remember. Light blue stand.
Yeah.
Because you don't really sort of think about it now, do you? I don't think since I was a kid, really, I don't think I've built a model on a stand. I can't remember the last time I built a model in flight, which is kind of extraordinary, as that's their whole point.
Well, yeah, because I went through that stage a few years ago, didn't I? I was doing a lot of stuff.
Chucking stuff away. But yeah, so going back to my point, we did miss you. It was, it
is appreciated, and I suspect, based on what I've seen this year, I will be back full of enthusiasm next year. Like I say, it's a mixed bag for me. I'm happy that I chose not to go, but I having seen how spectacularly successful it was, I do kind of miss the fact that I didn't go. So it's but
I'm not trying to make you feel bad about it. I'm just
no.
That we did miss you.
Would we do that? Would we do that?
Well, I wouldn't, because I'm not a horrible person.
Well, I mean, John would only do it in between telling us about his hospital stay.
Oh dear! Wow! Oh wow! Oh, by the way, John, you'll be very pleased to hear that we had our first Christmas dinner today.
Well done.
With all of the trimmings, because my mom, I know this is not modelling talk, but my mum had a hip operation, a hip replacement 3 weeks ago, and her twin sisters been staying up, sort of helping her to convalesce, and she's going back on Tuesday. So we said, well, before you go back, we'll do a Christmas dinner for you. So we had Christmas dinner today with the crackers, the lights, the whole 9 yards. It was very, very nice. So
yeah, brilliant. Excellent. Well, I've as people have seen on Facebook, I've already got my tree up. So 15th of November, that's got to be done. Liz would agree with me. So there we go. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not going to put those kind of thoughts in her head.
Shall we try and squeeze one more bit of news information out, and then we're going to have to wrap for tonight? So, Drew, I think this piqued your interest, didn't it?
Well, it's res kit, isn't it? It's superb. I've got some of the Edward interior bits for my F-35A.
Mm-hmm.
The seat and pilot just look amazing, don't they?
I was looking at this a couple of days ago. That seat and pilot, that's a week's painting to get the best from that. That detail is extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah, it just looks amazing, doesn't it? And look at the way it's protected as well. All those 3D printed parts are protected. It's just, it's leading edge stuff, isn't it? It's leading edge stuff.
It's definitely 2023 has definitely been the breakout year for 3D printing now, hasn't it? I think it's a combination of the technology has caught up with people's ambitions now, and I think certainly its affordability is driving innovation as well. But I've never seen so much quality 3D printed stuff from a lot of manufacturers now who have just ditched. I know our friend Mike Reeves has done this. They've ditched conventional resin casting. They're just selling prints direct now.
Yeah.
It's been a real year of revolution, hasn't it? I'm actually all here for it. Don't forget, you need to talk about the challenge.
We do need to talk about the challenge. So we're going to have to break it up, I'm afraid, gentlemen. So, any other business?
No. Come on, get on with it.
All right. We are going to be doing another challenge. Spence and I haven't done a challenge for a couple of years. And over Christmas, we will be doing the Walker Bulldog Challenge. Now we haven't finalised the date for this, so I think we're going to be trying to squeeze this in between other bits and pieces. But it's the same MO as usual. 10 days. No. I say no aftermarket. We will probably agree that we can use one additional accessory set, but beyond that, it's just going to be built, seeing what you can do with this kit out of the box. However, this time we are inviting everybody else to join in as well. And so if you head over to our friends at Jadlam, you can get the Tamiya Walker Bulldog for £15, including postage. When you're on the checkout, use the code IMCIQSM41. We'll put up a link to this and everything on the Facebook page. But yeah, it's a chance for everybody else to join in as well. Like I say, we'll let you all have a good couple of weeks to have a think about it, and then we'll announce a date. But yeah, we are doing the Walker Bulldog Challenge. It's a good kit, isn't it, Spence, for its age?
It's all right. Yeah, it's fine. I mean, it's simplified as a lot of these Tamiya kits were from back then, and it's got a minimal number of parts. But for something like this, I think it'll be good. I think there are some figures in there as well. I think in this kit there's some. But yeah, it's a nice basic kit. You can add detail to it. I've sort of already got a mental plan of what I'm thinking of doing, but I don't kind of want it to be like take up too much sort of time, really. So I'm sort of planning to do it much more as a kind of a much more cut down thing, and because I've already promised Elizabeth that I'll take 2 weeks off over Christmas, and I really want to take 2 weeks because honestly, I've just kind of I'm getting I'm getting to that point where I'm hitting a wall, and I'm just thinking, yeah, I'm just so. But we'll talk about that anyway. But yeah, I've got some sort of plans to do something really different with it, rather than kind of go with. I don't want to do a kind of a legacy build kind of thing with it. I think I'm gonna go for something else, and see kind of how that looks, which will no doubt raise a lot of eyebrows. I think we will see what we will see with it, but yeah, it's good and it's readily available. It's cheap kit, it goes together nice. It's a weekend project. You could build it.
That's 3 or 4 hours worth of building, isn't it? And then you're on to paint.
No more than that, and a dozen hours to paint it or something. It's a nice weekend project. It's the kind of thing we did when we were kids. You glue it all together, paint it, go, oh, look, nice kit. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It has been a while. We did tentatively talk about doing a 10-day challenge on Trumpeter's 200 scale Yamato.
We did, yeah.
John and I thought that might be of time.
Do you think?
Yeah.
I also that's when I also kind of like was looking up straight jackets for you, but
yes, we did promise Sir Andrew of Farmer that we would do those 2 ships that we've got
a couple of warship challenges, and I think we need to have a look at that in the new year just to see about doing that as well. So yes, folks, we do have a couple of little Tamiya 1/700 scale warships that
which one have you got? I think I've got HMS Rodney. Dave Fleming said Rodney and Nelson. Have you got Nelson? Have you?
I think I've got a Nelson, if you'll pardon the expression. So
yes, I think I've got. I think that's what we asked for, wasn't it? Didn't we ask for Rodney and Nelson? So yeah, I quite fancy the idea of doing that.
That should be good fun.
At least 30 years since I put a together.
I think what that might be something else that we might do on the IMC for 2024 is get out of your comfort zone month. Is just encourage people to build something out of their comfort zone. Just anything. It doesn't matter what. Just break out, seize the day, seize the moment, and do something that ordinarily you wouldn't normally build. So anyway,
I'm trying to work out how I would fit into that, given that there is very little that I don't. I don't know, figures, fantasy figures. Warhammer.
Yeah.
Warhammer, I guess.
There we go. On that note, I'm just going to say thank you to Drewe and Spencer for joining us tonight. Keep an eye out, folks, because we might do a couple of little pop-up lives over the next week or so as I try and wrestle these projects to completion. Thank you to everybody who tuned in tonight. Sorry I didn't get to run through to give you all a shout out. As you can see, we had a very full schedule of conversation here. So
and I wasn't even supposed to be on the show, was I? I kind of went, I'm not coming on. And then
I know. Well, Spence, you're always welcome here.
And in the words of the film Clerks, you weren't even supposed to be here.
Yes, I wasn't. I shall go.
On that note, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Stay safe, stay out of trouble, and fingers crossed, we'll see you in 7 days' time. So, bye for now.
Take care.